Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from DeltiaSgaming.com, and I got a lot of Dragonknight content for you. And first, it's been since November since I updated the Maelstrom Dragonknight magic build, and I want to go over it. Got Flawless Conqueror a little bit ago, so I'm going to explain to you the build, how to use it, and then in the next video, I'm going to show you the full no-death Flawless Conqueror run. Also, I got the PvE version, DPS, and then the PvE tank as well coming up. So stay tuned. A lot of Dragonknight content. But first, let's go over the Maelstrom build. Remember, this is for solo play, single player, doing Vet Maelstrom Arena. You can use it in dungeons as well, but you're going to sacrifice some damage for survivability, especially to get the top 10 and or the Flawless Conqueror achievement. Let's get started. So some of these skills are going to differ than what you're going to use in PvE, and you say that and you're probably like, why do you say that, Deltia? Well, because you don't have a pocket healer in Vet Maelstrom Arena or playing solo. You have to be able to heal yourself, survive, and sustain independently. When you're playing in a group, whether it's 4-man trials, a friend, whatever, you can rely on others to heal you, provide other buffs, debuffs, and so on. So this build is independent of all of that. Self-sustaining, you're buffing yourself, you're healing yourself, and so on. So I tried a lot of different things in order to get this right, what worked for me, and it's probably different than a lot of other Dragonknight builds. So we're going to use a Destruction Staff and then a Resto Staff. So Resto back here for buffs, damage up here with the Destruction Staff. Now, if you don't know, Flames of Oblivion got an update. Now it grants major savagery for having on your bar and does a monster amount of damage. Basically what you do is you click this, so it's no longer just toggleable, so you can bar swap and it's still up, and it basically provides a dot, a damage over time effect, that strikes pretty much 3 times in 15 seconds. Also, I replaced this with Inner Light on this particular build, and the reason why, it gives me the major savagery, but it just adds so much more damage on there. Spell critical and or weapon critical if you wanted it, major prophecy. So the damage you need to use this on is usually I do it right before combat starts. And the nice thing is let's say you're healing yourself, you're blocking, you're dodging, you're just trying to survive, and this thing's up, you're still doing damage. It does have a 15-meter radius as well, so it can go pretty far. Flames of Oblivion is a must-have, in my opinion. Now, Inner Light gives you more max magic, it gives you the same buff, but it doesn't have a damage component with it. So that's why I slotted off there. Okay, now, controversial, I don't use Molten Whip for this particular arena. The reason why, I love the range of Force Pulse. Now, when we're doing PvE dungeons, I love Molten Whip, but the 28-meter range and the damage, plus it has a roughly the same cost, or the actually identical same cost, plus it can do AoE if the target's already burning, which we're going to do as well. I think it's just a better skill for this particular thing. Now, if you're going for ultra top score, you're going to want ultra damage, which would be the whip. But for me, this worked way better than the whip the majority of the time. So I went with Force Pulse. That's in the Destruction Staff skill line right here. Also, another reason to use it, restores 3,600 magic when you kill a target with the Destruction Staff. Or a weapon attack. That's really, really useful on a Dragonknight that struggles with some magic resources sometimes. So you're going to have that could possibly kill him, and look at the cost. 3,600 and only costs 1,700. You're getting back way more than what it cost. Okay, next thing is, this isn't the most damage producing dot that we have, but it's incredibly powerful heal. If you literally just sit there and swipe it, sometimes you can get 10 to 15,000 heals on demand. The problem with it is, though, it's 5-meter range, and it has to do damage up front first, then you have to swipe it again. So what I like to do is basically swipe all the enemies, especially if I'm going to take a lot of damage, and then just kind of re-swipe them while my dots are ticking away at them. That's going to give you a flood of health. But this alone usually is not enough to heal you, so you're going to have some other things on there. Just because it doesn't have the range, has a 5-meter range. But it's really, really nice, and I always start off with this as I'm closing the distance. So I'll have Flames of Oblivion up, Proxy Det back bar, Force Pulse while I'm coming in, and then I'll use Blockade, Burning Embers, Life's Good. So 2 more Destruction Staff abilities that we're going to go over. One is Elemental Blockade. It has the Maelstrom Staff buffs this significantly, making it an absolute juggernaut, but you need to use this even if you don't have Maelstrom Arena Staff. Now, I don't use Elemental Ring. I use this instead, and because it's a damage over time effect, They're going to sit there, they're going to burn, and if they blow up while they're inside of it, we get a bunch back of magic. So it's 8 seconds, and it's pretty low magic cost. So instead of spamming Elemental Ring, using 6, 7, 8,000 magic, I'm just letting them sit in this, letting my dots kill them instead of recasting. So it's more efficient for me. Plus, it does really good single target damage and AoE, and it's not that bad to recast this on the move. Elemental Blockade. Then lastly, I have Elemental Drain. Basically, we're using this not necessarily for the spell resistance debuff, but we're using it to get magic back. The problem is that a Dragoknight is centered around Battle Roar, which if you don't know what Battle Roar is, using ultimate to get back resources. So the higher the ultimate cost, the more resources you get back, and that's one of the best things that the Dragoknight has. The problem is we don't always want to use an ultimate specifically during fights, that we want to save it for a particular boss to make it a lot easier to pass the round. So if we're not using Battle War and we're potions off cooldown, we're going to be suffering a little bit for magic. So Elemental Drain, in my opinion, is a must for this build. Now, I'm not going to apply it on every single mob. Why? Because it takes a second to cast it, and it might take literally 1 second to kill a mob with just a Burning Embers. So you're going to want to cast this on a mob that takes 2, 3, 4 shots instead of just something that you're just going to blow up right away. And usually you'll cast it while you're on the move towards them. So let's say this little guy here is the mob. I'm at 28 meter range, so what I'll do is usually Flames of Oblivion. I will cast the debuff on him right there, keep moving, blockade, and swipe. And that's kind of how I do it, closing the distance. And then once you swipe the individual mob with Burning Embers, I call it swipe, I don't know why, you can peel back. Remember that you have 28 meters range on Force Pulse, so you peel back and you're just kind of Force Pulsing them, and then you come back in to swipe again when you need more health. Just kind of always be in that 5-10 meter range, but don't be so close you're getting beat down all the time. So Elemental Drain. Apply it on the big targets that are going to take a little bit to kill. You can apply it to little targets and just heavy resto them down to get a bunch of resources before the next round, and I do that in the video sometimes, so I'll show you that. Okay, and we're going to use Banner. Standard to Might, 20% more damage, 20% damage reduction, 250 ultimate cost, and it'll last 17 seconds. What else can you say? It's probably the best damage ultimate in the game for the Dragoknight, for any class really. It lasts forever. It just does so much damage over time and buffs you incredibly. The trick is it's 250 ultimate cost, and you need to know when to use this. If you're in the middle of round 3 and you have another really hard round ahead of you, don't drop the banner. Use this for a oh crap, I gotta kill stuff moment. Or, oh crap, I'm out of resources, I'm going to die. 250 ultimate cost, this is going to heal you to full. So that's how I use this banner, or Standard of Might. Just be careful. It takes some time getting used to the fights and knowing when or when not to use it. Just, you're going to save it up. And remember, if you're going for no death, you don't need to tip the round over. So oftentimes, there'll be one mob left over, and I'll just hit it once in a while just to build ultimate up for the next round, especially if it's really hard. Because, well, I have no pressure on me. I might as well just get an ultimate up if I'm going for that no death run. Okay, next round here. This is the Restoration Staff. The reason I use Resto Staff is really for the self-heal that I get with Healing Ward. It's a shield. Now, it costs 3,000 magic. That's hefty amount, so you don't want to use this all the time. I do sometimes, if I'm going for high score, use Combat Prayer instead. The problem is it's not going to heal you to full necessarily and protect you, but it gives you a minor ward, resolve, and berserk. 8% more damage for 8 seconds. So that's a risk-reward thing. And even though it casts it in front of you, it's still going to get you with this buff. So sometimes if I'm going for high score, I take Healing Word off and just go ultra damage, and this really helps. But generally speaking, for getting used to it, I would use Healing Word. It really saves you. And once it expires, if the shield's not down, boom, heals you up. But it basically gives you a couple seconds to think and re-heal yourself. That's why I like using it. Another reason to use Resto Staff is Rapid Regeneration. I need to get this leveled up to 4, but it's ticking 16.5 seconds. Monster heals, and if you already have the Maelstrom Arena Staff, it's giving you back magic. So it's kind of a no-brainer if you have the Maelstrom Arena Staff. If you don't have the staff, I still recommend using it. I mean, this thing can tick for quite a bit. So let's see. I get my buff up. 2.7k right there. So that's not bad. Rapid regen ticket. I think those are crits. I mean, that's 2.7k healing a second. 1.7k. Okay, there we go. So roughly 2k healing a second just maintaining this. You get the added benefit that it comes with giving you magic back if you have that. But that's a lot of healing a second that you should be using. Another ability up in kind of my flex spot here is Harness Magic. Harness Magic absorbs magic damage, and that's all. So it's not going to absorb everything, but there's so many rounds, and almost every single round uses some type of magic damage, whether it's poison in the 3rd and the 7th, whether it's fire damage in the 1st round or the 8th, 9th, and pretty much everyone else. There's ice in the 5th round. I mean, there's almost every single thing you're going to have is going to be able to absorb some of this damage. It saves you a lot of the time. Like, let's say in level 7th round, you get poison on your feet. I can just spam cast this and put flappers up, and guess what? I'm going to make through it and survive. So it's kind of cheesy, but it gives you magic back, and it's really effective, so I'm going to use it. You can sub this in and out for different things. So, for instance, what you would sub this out for maybe is Fossilized, to use a control mechanism on our archer that's peppering you, or a target that can be stunned. You can also use Igneous Shields. This will give you Major Mending, making you heal a lot more briefly for 7 seconds. You can use Molten Armaments if you don't want to use Spell Power Potions, which I'll get to in the gear section, but I use that. Even Eruption here. And the reason I'm talking about Earth and Heart abilities is the passives are so good. Getting you back stamina, giving you ultimate. It's just really powerful to use Earth and Heart ability. But this is how I like to set my bar up. Now, I've used Flappers, and I've been using it, or Dragonfire Scales. Reflex Projectiles, it's just so helpful. I try to get away with not using it, and, you know, I could get pretty far, but the advantage of having Reflecting Projectiles is just too strong to pass up. It does cost a lot of magic, and it's only 4 projectiles, so it's not all of them. So you need to know when to cast this and which rounds are going to be heavy on reflecting. So for instance, the 3rd round is going to be really heavy in reflecting. They're going to be shooting stuff all over you. The 5th round, some of those things, you got to be careful when you cast it, not to just overcast it. So if you're an oh crap moment, first thing I do is Healing Ward, Dragonfire Scales, I harness Magicka up, Rapid Regeneration, and then usually Dragonfire Scales again. Remember, this does damage to him. It doesn't just absorb it. So sometimes these archers can just kill themselves with Flappers up. So it's really nice. Next up, Proxy Detonation. Proxy Det, what can I say? It's really hard. It's even better on a Dragoknight now since the CP has changed, making Thaumaturge in Elemental Expert kind of double dip in its effectiveness. And so I cast it on this bar, but when I bar swap, I make sure that it's on my Destruction Staff bar when it blows up. And that's enough AoE for me, just having Proxy Det up, Blockade of Fire, and things will die. Now, it blows up every 8 seconds, so you're going to need to recast it and time it often. And then, Smiting Dawnbreaker. This thing is really powerful and heavily underrated. It's 100 magic cost, or 100 ultimate cost, excuse me, and look how much damage it does. Now, how many rounds of there are on Daedra? Well, a lot. And even if it's not undead in Daedra, it still does a lot of damage. So, as a Dragoknight, you need a really high ultimate cost one and a low cost one, like in an oh crap panic moment. So I use this one in Undead and Daedra, and I use Ferocious Sleep and just another one. So like, you know, round 7, we'll say. It does a lot of damage up front and gives you a max shield and stuns the mobs. So it's like an oh crap, I don't have enough for banner, I'm out of resources, I can't heal myself, bang, Battle Roar, Healing Ward, you're back in business. And you'll see some of that on the video with the no death. So how do I use this per se? So what I'll do is I'll start my back bar, and you're going to want to look at the duration of buffs. So for instance, this is what, 24 seconds. This is 16.5, and this is 8. So that's kind of how I do it. I kind of go down the list. 1, harness, 2, rapid, proxy, bar swap, and then Flames of Oblivion. As soon as the portals start appearing, I'll do bang, elemental blockade right on the portal. I'll get up on top of the mob, swipe them once, and then kind of look around, because usually they're dead with that going off. And then I just play it by ear. Usually I go back and keep proxied it up. If I'm getting peppered at range, I'm going to do this. But make sure you have that hot rapid regeneration up. It's really, really that good. So if you're going to keep proxy det up, basically you get 2 proxy dets before you need to do rapid regeneration. That's kind of how I memorize it without looking at buff trackers and add-ons. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Rapid proxy. See, 8 seconds, it's counting down 15, so we're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing this. It blows up. Go back to my back bar, recast it, continue to do our thing, blowing up mobs. And guess what? Prox is going to go off. And rapid will need to be recapped, rapid regeneration. So that's kind of how you can memorize how to do it if you're on consoles and don't have the buff trackers, or you don't use the buff trackers like this. Then you're going to keep up harness magic when you're getting peppered with magic stuff, which is almost always. Plus, it'll help your resources. So in terms of resource management, we have rapid regeneration with the Maelstrom staff. If you don't have it, it's still worth using. You have harness magica, which is going to basically give you resources instead of damage. And then we have elemental drain. If you're below the CP cap, this will be pretty hard for you. So you need to use elemental drain more often. It will make a big difference, trust me. That's the skills. Let's talk about the gear. I am wearing a costume. So, costume, where is it at? My guy looks so stupid, so I'm going to show you what the costume is. Imperial Chancellor. Let's see, you get that by hitting VR16. Otherwise, this is my guy. Yay, how stupid he is. Lesson, don't ever create a character, you know, trying to think you're going to be funny and spend 1,000 hours on him, and he looks like this. Don't do it. Okay, so the gear that I have, I keep it simple, stupid, which is running the sets that work for me, which is a 5-1-1. So 5 light, 1 medium, 1 heavy. And yes, the Engine Guardian, you guys hate that I use this all the time, but it's just fantastic. It comes with so much more resources for you, and health, and stamina, which is so useful for doing this type of content. Now, ultra damage, if I'm going for a high score, I'm going to use Valken Scoria. Yes, I've used Lich Crystal, and it's good, but I like the AoE, and it calls down instantly with the meteors, and plus I have plenty of damage over time effects, and also it gives me that nice health bonus. So I carry both on me, but just so you know, if I'm going for no death and I want a high score, I'll switch things out, because, you know, sometimes you need more damage, sometimes you don't. So, no death, I'm definitely going with Engine Guardian. It really helps. I want Divines on all my traits, and I go with the Thief Munda Stone. So, the Thieves. And let's see. My buff bar, I think that's the distro bar, I'm at 65% critical. You know, mobs can't resist critical, so why not stack it, is kind of my mentality. I have 0 regen, pretty much, but that's because I'm using Battle Roar, Harness Magic, Rapid Regen, and Elemental Drain. So some other things I do with the gear is a 5-piece Julianos. Now, Twiceborn Star, when I originally made this, was the best in slot, and it still is for some builds. But unlike a Sorcerer, unlike a Nightblade, and unlike a Templar, we get no bonus to critical within our passives, or within our own racial passives. Sorks get the minor critical for using Dark Magic. Templars get critical for having a jab or a spear ability on their bar, and Nightblades get it for having assassination ability on their bar. More critical damage and more crit. So for me, it seems logical to do just Law of Julianos. Is that the absolute best in the world? I don't know, but I use it and I find it effective. A lot of people ask me, you know, hey, why can't I beat VMA and stuff? You got to realize, look at my gear. It's all legendary. Every single enchant is legendary. So sometimes it's not just you, the player, that's bad per se, or not good enough to beat Maelstrom. Your gear holds you back a lot of the time. And you have to put so much more effort into doing the mechanics right and getting lucky than per se I would. So don't take offense if you're, you know, can't pull this off or whatever and you're using blue gear. It's just very, very hard to do. So invest in your gear. It makes a tremendous difference. Yes, you can be skilled, and yes, you can do it without of it, but if you're trying to be the best, you got to optimize your gear and your character for the best. So do that. Trust me, it makes a huge difference. Okay, so we got Engine Guardian, 5-piece Julianos, and I do Willpower. Now, I do healthy, 2 healthy here since I'm at Dunmer, Puts me at 19k health. And then if I'm going for a high score, I just go both arcane. I have like no health, but I nuke stuff. So I go 2 healthy, all spell damage. Now, if you're not at 501 champion points or you're struggling, you're going to need at least 1, maybe 2 regen enchants. But for me, I've had enough practice doing it. I can manage my resources well that, I can just go all spell damage and nuke stuff. Maelstrom staffs. So Maelstrom Flame Staff and Maelstrom Healing Staff. If you don't have a Maelstrom Staff, just make a Torx pack one and make it Nirnhone trait. And then if you don't have a Healing Staff, make it Precise, Torx pack or whatever you want. And then you could do a Torx pack shoulder weapon and then like a Molag Hina helm or shoulder or whatever. And that would be a good set if you don't have the Maelstrom Staffs, but you have the Kina pieces. That's all it really is to the gear. A lot of people use this setup for a lot of different things, and the reason is it's effective. So we're going to stick with what's effective and what works. Speaking of that, let's talk champion points. For my champion points, I pretty much do what I do on all my other builds. For PvE, I go pretty heavily into Magician. Since I don't have any innate magic regen, I'm not really using any regen. So 18% really doesn't do a whole lot for me. I'd rather have reduced cost and use Battle Roar mainly and Elemental Drain to get back resources. So that's kind of how I set up this. Now, I used Asari's guide on champion points. I don't know if it's the best or if it's the worst or whatever, but this is what it showed me to do for Dragonknight. And all the credit goes to them, not me, for developing the math and stuff behind it. So hopefully I used it right, but this is what I had. I got a Flawless Conqueror, and I'm number 9 on PCNA, so I think I'm doing something right. 22 in Elfborn, Spell Critical, 10 in Erosion, 95 in Elemental Expert, and then 40 in Thaumaturge. Like I said, don't know if this is perfect, but works for me, so I'm going to use it. The rest of the stuff is pretty much what I do for almost every other build. 40 in Hardy, 40 in Elemental, 40 in Thick Skin, and then 47 in Quick Recovery. I don't know if that's the best or what have you, but hey, it works for me, and I've gotten through content doing it, so try it. If it doesn't work for you, try something different. That's all you can do. Get a lot of questions on what race to play, what, this, that, attributes, this type of stuff. Attributes really don't matter. People go, oh my god, attributes. Well, you can put all your attributes into magic and still have a high enough amount of health. You do it by enchanting your individual pieces with health. You do it by putting healthy jewelry on, set bonuses, all sorts of things. What you need to worry about is max numbers. You need to worry about 1800 plus health. You're going to try to get to 40k magic for a full, really big DPS burn, but just know that it's not that big of a deal. Now, if you want to play a Magic Dragonknight, I've played it on my Orc, and it does just fine. But it's not going to be optimal, meaning you're going to have to work harder to do the same amount of damage that Dunmer does. You're just going to. It's the best possible thing you can be for a Dragonknight. Can it work on a High Elf? Sure. Can it work on a Nord? Sure. But it's not going to work as good. So if you like your character and you're happy with it and you don't want to be number 1 in the world at VMA, stick with it. You can play Stam and play Magic and still be pretty effective. But if you're going to start over from the beginning, do a Dunmer and absolutely do not make him look like this. He looks so stupid. You will regret it, just like me, I'm telling you. So that sort of thing will help. Now, also what will help is leveling your Assault and skill line, getting that Proxy Debt, huge difference. Leveling your Fighter's Guild, Mage's Guild, getting Undaunted to 9, all of these things add up to make this much easier. Leveling all of your skills, getting the max. Look, this is Harness Magic at 3. That's usually unacceptable for me, and I always get them to 4, but, whatever, I had to do this video. Do the little things. Everyone does the big things, but they don't do the little things, and they wonder why they can't beat this. If you do the little things, squeeze every ounce of performance out of your build, and then learn it. Remember, I didn't just walk in here and get this, Flawless Conqueror day 1. I've been at it for about 3 days now, doing it 2 to 3 times a day. Getting beat down, having the keyboard act up, my mouse froze up, I didn't do a bar swap one time, and just died a lot. And it's okay, it's just going to take practice. Anything hard is worth getting, right? So if it's going to be hard, it's going to be frustrating. Take a break, walk around. It's not a big deal. But guess what? Once you get this once, They can't take it away from you. It's like a degree, man. You can't take it away from you. So keep working at it. Keep optimizing your builds. Keep trying to get better. Sometimes I watch my old videos, like, and just see what I'm doing and then critique myself. And then I go back and try it again. You know, sometimes that's what you got to do. NFL players do it when they're trying to get better. You know, gamers can do it too. So hopefully this helps you guys out doing the Maelstrom. I'll show you how to play the build and how it operates inside the VMA run. Thanks so much for watching. Next video up, we're going to do the Magic Dragonknight PvE group content. So I'll show you some videos from ICP and White Gold Tower of just nuking stuff, and then a 30,000 parse in Bloodspawn. 32,000 single target deeps. Inferno Nugget, he's back. If you like this video, thumbs up, share, leave me a comment what you guys think, and subscribe if you like this content and want more. Thanks for watching.